Tom gets his comments after, before we leave. We won't pass them around right now.
Okay.
In respect for Toastmaster Bruce.
Okay.
All right, our next speaker is the immediate past president of the Cisco Toastmasters Club in Houston, Texas. He is working on his advanced communicator bronze certification. And he is currently a competent communicator and advanced leader bronze, and has been a Toastmaster for over 4 years. This is a speech project number 3, Make Them Laugh, from the Humorously Speaking Manual of the Advanced Communication Series. The assignment was to make a speech with humorous stories at the beginning and end, plus jokes in the middle. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Bruce Adams. Got an alarm, use an alarm, got an alarm, use an alarm, by Bruce Adams.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our departed guests. Alarms in today's environment has almost become a necessity for all of us. Some of us underuse alarms, some of us overuse alarms. Which group do you fall into? There are various types of alarms. There's driveway alarms, there are pool alarms, there are I've fallen and I can't get up alarms. There are, I mentioned pool alarms, security alarms, personal alarms. All of those are dealing with security. I'm going to talk about reminder alarms. And as you know, there are various multitude of reminder alarms out there. In theory, at least from my perspective, we should never be late to anything. There are alarms in televisions. There are alarms in cell phones. There are alarms in your computers. There's alarms in your kitchen. There are alarms in watches. There are alarms in your cell phones. There are alarms all around us. So we shouldn't be late. But let me tell you a story. As you know, I traveled a lot on my previous job, and I had a layover in Atlanta for 3 hours. And I said, oh, well, this is not so bad. I've got plenty of time to check email, check voicemail, respond to that, respond to email, use the restroom, get food, all those things you do when you got a long layover. And it worked out great. Except one thing happened. I fell asleep at the gate. Can you imagine how I felt falling asleep at the gate? I mean, it's not that bad, but with a 3-hour window. And to make it even worse, I fell asleep at the door leading to the jet bridge. Did the agents awaken me? Mr. Adams, it's time for your flight. No. They just let you sit there. So needless to say, I did awaken and get on the flight. I also use alarms for naps. It's nothing like getting in the bed in the middle of the day, getting in your pajamas or your gown or whatever you're going to sleep in, take a nice 4-hour nap, set the alarm, just feel very refreshed. But it doesn't do much for your evening sleep. Not that mine's that great anyway. If I'm going on an airplane flight, I typically set 2 alarms, and just in case one fails or the power goes out or whatever. I used to set alarms for TV shows, but now that I've got a DVR, at least had one, I can take that one off the list now. But how did we live, how did we operate back in the day with the old West Clock's alarm clock that we had to wind up once a day? That was the sole purpose of the alarm back in that day, was to awaken us. Since most of us don't have roosters in our backyard. So if you got an alarm, set an alarm. Now, many of you probably worked in a corporate environment where you had meetings and you'd set a reminder for your meeting. And I'm sure I'm the only one that would acknowledge the alarm, get to doing something else, or continue what I was doing, end up late to the meeting. How embarrassing. Or there's the time you have the meeting, you know the meeting is at 4 o'clock, it's 11:30 now. The alarm mysteriously deselects itself. Or you get those bright employees and bright coworkers that their default is set for 0. That really chaps your backside. And the last thing that really hurts is when you got to set an alarm to remind someone else to do something. That's a little beyond the Call of Duty. As you can tell, I've probably got enough going on, and you do too, to not have to remind someone else to do something. Now, talking about the old West clock, it only had, I believe, 1 snooze button. That is probably the worst invention created. If you're like me, I try to set an alarm clock that's beyond the arm's reach. So I have to get up, stand up, and go turn it off. Otherwise, I'll just hit it and go back to sleep. As I mentioned in another meeting, it's okay to acknowledge your alarm when you're at work, get up, go to the meeting. There's no penalty for being early. As a matter of fact, if you can start early, maybe you can finish early. Whoops, there's my alarm. Time to end this speech. But alarms, there are other types of alarms that you use every day. They're called timers and stopwatches, or stopwatch timers. I call those short duration timers. They're very good to help you when you're grilling the food, to make sure you don't burn it while you're inside watching TV or talking or doing something else. But there's one alarm I don't need. That's to eat. The body takes care of that one. So in conclusion, if you have an alarm, set an alarm, because it'll help you grilling the food, taking naps that are not too awfully long, getting to the airport on very important travel arrangements, getting there on time, not sleeping past the departure time of your gate, of your flight departure, taking medicine. Who wants to overdose on Tylenol PM? You only want to take it every so often, not multiple times. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Madam Timekeeper, give us a minute so that we can write reflections to Bruce.
Okay.